Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the channel. We have some more fight announcement news. We are getting Cody Garbrandt versus Rani Yahya on the October 1st fight night card. And this is a fight that was originally scheduled for the July 9th card, the Rafael Dos Anjos versus Rafael Fiziev card, and it got canceled. Rani Yahya pulled out with a neck injury. We didn't know how long he was going to be out. Was the UFC going to rebook this fight down the line? Were they going to find Cody Garbrandt a replacement opponent? Were they just going to have him fight someone else in the meantime? And now the Rani Yahya fight's never going to happen. Well, now we finally have an answer. We're getting Cody Garbrandt versus Rani Yahya, October 1st, UFC Fight Night card. And this is a fight that's not particularly important to, relevance in the division. Honestly, it's a fight of two unranked bantamweights, which is absolutely crazy that Cody Garbrandt is an unranked bantamweight, but rightfully so. The bantamweight division is the filthiest division in all the UFC. But this is a fight that we talk about big fights on this channel. We talk about, oh my God, I cannot wait for Adesanya versus Alex Pereira, or I can't wait for Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev for the lightweight title. I believe, Cody Garbrandt versus Rani Yahya. I know it doesn't sound like a crazy exciting matchup or anything like that. This fight has massive stakes on the line because I believe, and I'm going to get to my early prediction later in this video, I believe if Cody Garbrandt loses this fight, I believe it is the end of Cody Garbrandt's career. And maybe, maybe he goes over to Eagle FC, maybe he goes over to Bellator, maybe he goes over to PFL. But if he loses to Rani Yahya, then it will definitely be the end of his UFC career, in my personal opinion. You look at Cody Garbrandt. I'm a big fan of Cody Garbrandt. I'm a big fan of his fight style. He's had one of the biggest falls from grace that I have ever saw in the UFC. He reeled off a bunch of wins. He got a big win over Takeo Mitsugaki, which earned him a title shot against Dominic Cruz all the way back in December of 2016. And since December of 2016, where he put on a masterclass performance against Dominic Cruz, this is crazy. In 6 years since 2016, he's only won one fight. He's lost 5 out of his last 6. And of those 5 losses, 4 of them have been by KO or TKO. So Cody Garbrandt is not in a good spot right now. And I believe, you look over the course of his career, he had that crazy great win over Dominic Cruz, which I actually picked against him. I thought I thought he was a nightmare matchup for Cody Garbrandt. And I believe a lot of people were with me at this point in time. And Cody Garbrandt came in, and it was one of the best title performances I've seen since I've been watching the UFC. He went out there, he dropped Dominic Cruz multiple times. Dominic Cruz had some moments in this fight, but Cody Garbrandt just looked like he was on another level. And then after that, they booked the grudge match against TJ Dillashaw. And what's crazy to me is Cody Garbrandt has 2 losses to TJ Dillashaw. This is going to be a bit of a hot take. Maybe some of you will agree with me. Maybe some of you will say I'm crazy. I believe Cody Garbrandt could have easily won both of these fights. And he just let his emotions get the best of him. He hurt TJ Dillashaw badly in that first fight. And Dillashaw was saved by the bell. And Garbrandt came out in the next round and was overconfident and was spamming the right hook like he does. And then he just got brutally countered and finished by TJ Dillashaw to lose his belt. And then what do they do right afterwards? They book the immediate rematch. And sometimes I think these immediate rematches are detrimental to the fighters because then you lose twice to the same champion and then you're kind of in no man's land. So they book the rematch. He goes against TJ Dillashaw again. And Dillashaw KOs him in the first round this time. And it's a similar scenario. It's competitive. Cody Garbrandt's having some moments, but he's spamming the same right hand over and over again. And it was literally like a mirror of the first performance. He just gets countered and brutally finished. And I believe there's a chance that TJ Dillashaw just completely took his chin. And this is really, something that bothers me quite a bit because TJ Dillashaw, I believe, was injecting EPO at this point in time. And you look at the beatings he put on Renan Barão. He put on nasty beatings on Renan Barão. He finished Cody Garbrandt twice, maybe took his chin, altered his career for sure. And all this time, TJ Dillashaw was probably using EPO. After that, he comes back against Pedro Munhoz, UFC 235. And Pedro Munhoz just has a granite chin and is willing to get into a war. And this was a back and forth fight. Both guys just slinging. But again, Cody Garbrandt gets away from his technical ability and just starts brawling, and Pedro Munoz puts him out. After that, he fights Rafael Sunsao, and thank God for Rafael Sunsao. This was at UFC 250, June of 2020. Cody Garbrandt gets that highlight reel KO where he kind of ducks down. He has, the right hand by his kneecap, throws it up, gets a buzzer beater KO, puts Rafael Sunsao out cold, and that's his only win since the title fight against Dominic Cruz. After that, he loses a decision to Rob Font where he just got beat up the entire fight. Then he went down to 125 pounds against Kai Kara-France. That's his most recent fight at UFC 269, December of last year. And he gets chinned in the first round by Kai Kara-France. And what I forgot to mention in between there is, and this is a point to the video that I'm going to talk about later in the video, but after he beat Rafael Sunsao at UFC 250, Cody Garbrandt actually got a title shot from the UFC. He was supposed to fight Davison Figueiredo for the flyweight title at UFC 255 after beating a Sunsao. So after losing 3 fights straight, all 3 by KO, he comes back and gets a win against Rafael Sunsao, and now he's getting a title shot in a completely different weight class. Deserved, undeserved, we could debate that all day, but either way, he was going to get the shot at flyweight for the title, and he gets COVID. And apparently he has long COVID, has issues with this, has issues with his lungs. He has to pull out of that fight, and eventually we end up getting, I think it was Alex Perez got that title fight, and then we know what happened a month later. He ends up fighting Brandon Moreno. The rest is history. But he pulls out of that fight. He does not return for, till May of the following year. So almost 6 months later is when he fights Rob Font. He just didn't look the same in that fight and got outworked and beat up on the feet by Rob Font. And now here we are. He's lost 5 out of his last 6. 4 of those are by KO or TKO. And the point I was getting to about, him getting the title shot from the UFC is the UFC has always looked at Cody Garbrandt as a potential future star. And they wanted to build him as a future star. They were putting a lot of promotion into him. That's the reason they gave him the rematch against TJ Dillashaw. That's the reason they were going to give him the flyweight title fight. And that's the reason, they sent him down against Kai Kara-France while the whole Figgy Moreno thing was playing out. Because if Cody Garbrandt was to beat Kai Kara-France, they were going to give Garbrandt the next title shot. Unfortunately, obviously, he got chinned in that fight. But now you're like, okay, he's fighting Rani Yahya. The reason he is fighting Rani Yahya, and the reason this is so important to Cody Garbrandt's career, is because the UFC is being very selective about the opponent for Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt's only 31 years old. The UFC still looks at him as a potential star that they could build. I know the bantamweight division is filthy right now. I know Cody Garbrandt's no longer ranked, which I never thought I would see the day, especially this soon in his career. But the UFC handpicked Rani Yahya out for Cody Garbrandt to beat. And I'm going to get to my prediction here in a minute because, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But they handpicked Rani Yahya out because they wanted Cody Garbrandt to get back on track and get back in the win column. And what's so dangerous about a fight like this is when you handpick this guy that he has to beat, if he ends up losing, it is going to be an absolute catastrophe for Cody Garbrandt. If he goes out there and gets chinned by Rani Yahya, the career is over because the UFC hand-selected this guy, looked at his attributes, looked at his skills, and said, you know what? This is a guy that Cody Garbrandt can get back on the winning track against. And if he loses, it's just going to be a catastrophe. They could have fed him to Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley's a guy they've been building up and kind of babying throughout his UFC career. Obviously not anymore. He's fighting Piotr Jan. But they could have gave him to Sean O'Malley. They had their back and forth. They both fought on UFC 269. They've had their back and forth in the past. They could have built Sean O'Malley's name off of Cody Garbrandt's chin. But the UFC didn't go that route because they want to get Cody Garbrandt back in the win column. And against Rani Yahya, this is his best opportunity. You look at Rani Yahya, he has 40 pro MMA fights. Of those 40 pro MMA fights, he has 28 wins. Of those 28 wins, he has 0 wins by knockout. This is a hand-selected opponent to get Cody Garbrandt a win. And I believe Cody Garbrandt will win this fight. Rani Yahya just wants to take you down, grapple you, look for the submission. And I just don't feel like he's going to be able to do that to Cody Garbrandt. Rani Yahya is not particularly big and strong. Cody Garbrandt has very good defensive wrestling. Cody Garbrandt has very good hand speed. Cody Garbrandt has very good boxing. And he has filthy power. The one liability, and it's been the liability for Cody Garbrandt for the last few years, is his chin. I mean, I don't know what happened. I guess it's the TJ Dillashaw fights and the knockouts there and then the Pedro Munoz fight. The chin has just disintegrated. And it's hard to win fights at the highest level when you walk around with a massive off button on your chin. but I don't believe Rani Yahya, even with the diminished chin of Cody Garbrandt, I don't think Yahya has the power to put Cody Garbrandt away. So I think this fight will be Rani Yahya looking for the takedown. I think it will be Cody Garbrandt stuffing the takedown. And I think Cody Garbrandt will be chopping the legs. Rani Yahya just plots forward, doesn't have very much head movement. And I predict Cody Garbrandt first round brutal KO. We will get Cody Garbrandt back on track. But this fight, he has to have a lot of pressure on him. Because if he loses this fight, this will be the end of Cody Garbrandt. Maybe Eagle FC will sign him. I don't know. But as far as his UFC career, it will be gone. It will be gone. You cannot lose to Rani Yahya. And especially if he were to get KO'd by Rani Yahya, I literally might cry just watching it. Because you look at Rani Yahya, he's 37 years old. He's coming in on a 2-fight win streak. He can afford to get KO'd by Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt cannot afford to lose to an opponent the caliber of Rani Yahya, because even though Cody Garbrandt's not ranked, I still believe Cody Garbrandt's one of the best bantamweights in the world. And I think a lot of it has to do with some technical deficiencies with his defensive striking and also his chin. They're the two holes in his game. And we saw Alistair Overeem later in his career be able to kind of make his game plan around his glass jaw by shelling up quite a bit. I hope Cody Garbrandt can make some changes in his game, where he doesn't get tagged on the chin so much, because it's just not holding up for him. So I got Cody Garbrandt winning this fight by first round KO. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm really hoping Cody Garbrandt gets back on track. He's only 31 years old. I want to see him stick around for a while. I would like to see him fight some of the top guys in the division. You look at Dominic Cruz this weekend. He has a big fight against Marlon Vera. 2 top 10 ranked guys. Cody Garbrandt has a win over Dominic Cruz and is younger than Dominic Cruz. So I really want to see him get back on track. I think he would make a great addition, to that top 15 of the bantamweight division again. I don't know if Rani Yahya is going to get him back into the rankings, because the division is just so filthy at this point in time, but I would love to see it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, and thank you so much for watching.